that full sovereignty, democracy, and strong institutions and strong military force is maintained. For the other issues related to the EU or NATO, of course, that is not part of the bilateral discussions with Russia. That is something for the EU and NATO to decide, and that's where I leave it at that. The resolution and other efforts on the abducted children by Russia, we will stand by these efforts. We provide practical help. We will provide political help, of course, at the UN and elsewhere. And I commend the work of your ombudsman, but also other colleagues, also international partners who do all the practical, very difficult work of locating children and returning them to their parents. So that work will continue at all levels. The same about the prisoners of war, about those that are tortured and disappeared. And that's why also on accountability and international efforts on justice, our work will maintain strong. We're working with Ukraine, but also international partners to make sure that the special tribunals, that the registry and so on and so forth is implemented and comes into force. Our aid to Ukraine, we regard that it's something that is self-understandable. We don't have to explain why we are doing that. Ukraine is defending herself in accordance with the UN Charter, and every nation in the world should feel that they have a part in defending, in allowing Ukraine to defend herself, but also ensuring that Ukraine has sufficient self-defense capabilities. So more than half of our 1 billion assistance is military assistance in various ways. A lot of enabling assistance, a lot of energy, infrastructure support, variety of things I can't even mention. And then, of course, the so-called Pearl initiative within NATO, where there is a special fund that the Secretary General has created from which the US weapons then are purchased. So we have given our share to that, and we will continue. You mentioned drone coalition, next year 50 million from us to make sure that there is sufficient capability, but also that the newest scientific and innovative research that is done is implemented on the battlefield and allows Ukraine to defend herself. We also allocated additional 5 million euros 2 days ago to make sure that there are other capabilities and also additional resources for Ukrainian soldiers' rehabilitation in Latvia. The 42 Patriot armored carriers that have been given by Latvia to your armed force, I met some of the brave Ukrainian soldiers who are on them, and they say it's the best that they have had, so I'm very happy to hear that. We will continue training Ukrainian troops, 4,000 per year. If necessary, we can step it up. And we have also, for the first time, taken NATO's military hospital, so-called Renovator project, as one of ours under our sort of responsibility to reconstruct. And SATU Trust Fund, obviously we are there. But also what it means for Ukraine is that Ukraine works with all the NATO's allies in practice, which brings interoperability, which brings a lot of practical knowledge how NATO allies work. And you know, whenever the decision on the enlargement or not comes, our position is clear. We do support Ukraine's NATO membership when it's there, but to be ready, to be interoperable, and to make all the preconditions done so that whenever political conditions are ripe, Ukraine can join both the EU but also NATO. And a couple of words on Chernihiv. Indeed, we have chosen Chernihiv as one of our regions where we provide support, but we also do it in other regions. And it was very moving to see both how resilient people are. Yes, it's not easy. The energy and electricity is often not there, because of the Russian strikes. But people are committed. They are working. They are doing the things that they need to. And we also had the opportunity to meet the children at the music school, college, who have learned the Latvian song because they have been in music camps in Latvia throughout the years. And also the instruments were donated by our musicians. And it was really very moving to listen to them in a shelter in Chernihiv. The same as visiting the other projects. On the other big priorities, you would have heard me already. It's making sure that we ourselves as allies, as countries both in NATO, EU, but also around the world are strong, that we invest in defense and security, because the threat, Russia threat, is not going to disappear. All the assessments are there that the trajectory of Russia is not going to change, so making sure that we as strong countries also have strong deterrence defense capabilities will also help supporting Ukraine in the future. Second big priority, making sure that Ukraine is able to ensure its self-defense, but also move towards politically on the track and practically to the EU and NATO, but also making sure that Ukraine has all the global support. So I'm thankful for your support on the UN Security Council. Candidature will be there for the first time. That will be a big work for our diplomatic service, and we very much look forward relying also on Ukrainian professional knowledge. And then the third big pillar, they are all interrelated, obviously, is weakening Russia and weakening Russian capability to fight the war, and that's everything. That's the sanctions, that's the oil, shadow fleet, the ecosystem, that's other exports that Russia is doing, whether that's fertilizers or others, but it's also this international isolation. Russia has not been elected in a number of very important organizations, and just earlier this week Russia was not elected to the Organizational Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. So that's something that we think is important, where the global society shows that they know what Russia is doing. There are countries that might not be giving weapons to Ukraine, but they show with their voting what is happening de facto and their evaluation of the situation. So once again, great to be here, and I think we have explained everything. There will be no questions anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellencies. We still have a few questions, very brief ones, I promise. And we will start with Latvian radio.
Дуже дякую, Індер Спранц, Латвійське радіо. У мене запитання до пану Сибіги. На вашу думку, як ви бачите, наскільки реально зараз укласти угоду, мирну угоду, враховуючи російські атаки на українські міста? Дуже дякую.
Ми вітаємо зусилля президента Трампа, спрямовані на закінчення цієї війни Росії проти України. Ми вдячні нашим європейським партнерам за підтримку наших зусиль на цьому напрямку. Україна, як жодна інша держава в світі, зацікавлена у прискоренні і мирного процесу, у прискоренні мирних зусиль для досягнення справедливого миру. Це наш національний інтерес, і виходячи з цього національного інтересу, веде роботу українська переговорна команда. Вона перебуває в контакті з американською командою. Найближчим часом, напевно, слід очікувати майбутніх чи чергових контактів для обговорення конкретних кроків, яким чином наблизити справедливий мир для України.
Дякую. І Інтерфакс Україна, прошу.
Дякую, Валерія Прещенко, Інтерфакс Україна. My first question to our dear guest. Thank you for all Latvian support. And as we are discussing security guarantees, the short question, what practical steps Latvia is ready to provide to Ukraine? І наступне запитання до Андрія Івановича. Ви згадали щойно контакти між Україною та США, що відбуваються. Оскільки пан Дріскол прибуде до України, що було озвучено головою Офісу президента Андрієм Єрмаком, які в нас очікування, по-перше, від цього візиту, та чи можна очікувати контактів на найвищому рівні найближчим часом? Дякую.
On the security guarantees, we welcome the US commitment to be very much involved and to ensure that there is such a guarantee. But it also depends, it very much depends on the practical military advice. So in the previous iteration of work, our chiefs of defenses of the coalition of willing had come together, and there is a proposal on the table. So depending on what type of arrangement there is at the end of these talks, it will also then depend on the adjustment of the security guarantee and what type of solution. But we are ready to play our role, and we have said that that's why we are in the coalition of the willing. But it depends again on the practical military advice. It's not for politicians to decide what should be where and how and so on and so forth.
На ваше запитання підтверджую, що найближчим часом слід очікувати зустрічі переговорних команд. Які наші очікування? Очікування конкретні результати. Конкретні результати для того, щоб відбувався прогрес. Для нас надзвичайно важливо, і Україна неодноразово це демонструвала, досягнення перемир'я. Досягнення перемир'я, тому, безумовно, зараз всі зусилля і переговорної команди, всі дипломатичні зусилля спрямовані, власне, на забезпечення цього мирного процесу. Так, українська сторона зацікавлена у контактах на найвищому рівні, у зустрічі президент Зеленський, президент Трамп, тому що є питання, найбільш чутливі питання, які можуть бути обговорені лише на рівні лідерів.
Дякую. І останнє, коротеньке, the last one, short one to Latvian television, please.
Audita Krenberga, Latvian television. How to get more European commitment to help Ukraine, and what would you like to expect?
До мене? Да. Ну, для нас важливо сейф-програма, для того, щоб Україна займала важливу роль у цій програмі, яка розроблена в рамках ЄС, і у листопаді, власне, буде затверджено ті проекти, подані від конкретних столиць. Для нас важливо, щоб було позитивне рішення щодо репараційного кредиту, тобто фактичне використання заморожених активів. Для нас важливе подальше розширення і масштабування програми PEARL. Ну і, звичайно, всі інші речі, це наші фундаментальні речі, це наш поступ на шляху до повного членства в Європейському Союзі. Це і наша взаємодія двостороння з нашими партнерами, в тому числі в оборонній сфері, яка на сьогодні дійсно має оцю вин-вин підґрунтя, коли Україна своїм досвідом також вносить і у нашу спільну європейську безпеку.
And for me, I think the important part is that, again, Ukraine is fighting under UN Charter, Article 51, right to self-defense, which means that those countries that provide weapons, that provide enabling capabilities, don't become party to the war, because it's a self-defense. And even when Ukraine strikes Russia, it's self-defense, the military objects. So it's important that it's not just European countries providing aid to Ukraine. The whole world, in our view, should provide and support Ukraine. It can be military support, it can be financial support, it can be humanitarian support, medical support, energy support, financial support, political support. It's all, I mean, we are on the same earth. So everybody has to do its share. And I think for Europeans especially, also for neutral countries, they are well off, they can do more. They can do more. It's for the collective security that we are doing that. And indeed, the immediate steps is extending the term for the frozen assets. It's making sure that the sanctions are strengthened, that new tariffs on Russia, Belarus are imposed, and that also the military equipment and energy infrastructure support equipment is provided in the soonest time. So those would be the immediate steps. But as I said, there is a wide enabling need in that all. We are all part of humankind. We have all signed up for the same principles in the UN, where the change of borders by force is not acceptable.
Можливо, я ще доповню. Важливо нарощування тиску на агресора, на Росію, аби щодня зростала особисто для Путіна, для його режиму ціна ведення подальшої агресії проти України. І, безумовно, дуже важливо швидко просунутись на шляху прийняття 20-го санкційного пакету. У нас є конкретні ідеї. Зокрема, по-перше, запобігти вилученню олігархів. Ми бачимо спроби певних країн, певних столиць для вилучення російських олігархів в вже існуючих санкційних списках, а натомість, навпаки, розширити список олігархів найближчого оточення Путіна. Всі вони повинні платити за цю агресію. Далі дуже важливо те, що Байба сказала, використовувати інструментарій тарифів. Навіть зараз відбувається імпорт певних товарів з Росії та Білорусі до Європейського Союзу. Є позиції, щодо яких, ми це розуміємо, важко досягати консенсусу, але є такий інструмент, як введення тарифів на окремі категорії товарів. Ми сьогодні обмінялись думками щодо цього. Нам здається, що тут є значний потенціал, аби далі позбавляти російську військову машину отримання доходів, а це означає, що фінансування подальшої своєї агресії. Дякую.
There's only one person between the peace in Ukraine and President Trump, and that is Butcher in Kremlin. If he stops the war, there's peace.
Thank you, Excellencies, and thank you, media. At this we conclude. Thank you.